This is the Modern Humans Comprehension Course number 4 by A. B. Glaser, the ultimate self-awareness courses. Modern Humans Entity Comprehension number 4 by Alfred B. Glaser. Forward. You are now starting the long-awaited comprehension course number 4. Many of you are still waiting to be told what to do. You'll never be told what to do, only how. By applying what is in the comps, you can work seemingly miracles, but you hardly notice the miracle you have performed. The comps work no miracles. They are only the tools. No wrench ever tightened a nut. The person using it did. As you use the material in the comps, many times without ever knowing until afterward that you did so, pieces fall into place. So gradually, ever so gradually, that you change without knowing you've changed. You think everyone you know has changed. Comp 4 is different. To make it work, you will need concentration. Not much, but you'll have to actually focus and think about one subject at a time. After a bit of practice, this will come easily. Expect to go through shock. Comp 1 is tame compared to the stark facts in Comp 4. Much age-old false knowledge is swept away in single sentences. Long-awaited facts vaporized. Be prepared to go back over what you thought you knew about the 3 comps you've already studied. It should help. At the present moment in time, there is much fear rampant. The economy, the wars, the great unrest. Hanging at the edge of consciousness is total disaster threat. Forget it. Since material is the direct result of the immaterial, and only the material part is altered in contrast, the immaterial always brings back the varied forms of thought to be destroyed material. As you carefully study the how of this, be careful. You are an actuator of both material and immaterial energies. The interaction of your minds can play havoc. A mind material, B mind and C mind immaterial. Overlap and creation happens, but of what kind? Do not act until you know. No index, find your own way. Answers on last. Decide mentorship. Your dwell, your need to know it. By now you should be conscious of your dwell changes. You should know how much time you spend in each. You should know which dwell you like and why you like it at the time you like it. Today's activities demand that you make constant dwell changes as you go through the day. Eat lunch in C mind and get ulcers. Run a computer in B mind and get blank spaces. Work in A mind and get nothing but mistakes, including asking a C mind on the job of the opposite sex and getting a flat no to any question asked. The best relationship exists where dwell states closely match, or one person can easily change their dwell state to match their partner's. Should this happen too often, the relationship will go sour. What you like to do is being violated. Hostility will develop. You must like the dwell states you play or work in, or you'll not be happy doing whatever you are forced to do while in that activity, unless you have mastered pleasure dwell. Pleasure dwell is that ideal state of being so long sought after by the bosso for the workers. But when a bosso gets such a worker in industry, service, labor, or armed forces, they promptly go up a wall. A person in the pleasure dwell smiles, the eyes glow softly, nothing but absolutely nothing bothers them. They do not make mistakes, they outperform everyone around them, do 3 or more jobs at once, don't expect thanks, but should they not get appreciation, will suddenly walk off the job without any other gesture than a smile and a wave of the hand. This usually gives El Bosso a mild stroke because El Bosso has been riding the highly producing person for more and ever more unit performance with cracks like, if you're not so lazy, you could do more, twice as much. And I know this isn't your job, but you can do it fast and we need it. It should take 8 hours, but you can do it too. However, a person in a pleasure dwell, when literally knocked out of it, suddenly can and sometimes does strike back so suddenly at the offender as to cause the loss of up to an hour of the offender's immediate memory. A male or female snapped rudely from a pleasure dwell does have the ability to render the offender helpless over a long period of time, seldom permanently unless death is an issue. A pleasure dwell is called many names in many languages, but it has a few actions in common: a healthy, easy, and happy state of being, but when threatened or abused, capable of instantly delivering a concentrated amount of energy that is devastating. When coming out of a pleasure dwell under duress, time stands still. All is frozen into immobility around the person, while the pleasure dweller is moving, pushing all actions to accelerate movement. Great force is applied, agonizing force, to speed up the action. The result is instant mayhem. So take time now. Your dwellers are you. Do not judge them. Know them. You're going to study the mechanics of them under control.
Color. In comment number 1, the human eye is stated as being the most deceiving of all the senses. Now you're going to find out how and why. The key to clarify your own reality is simple. Let no one tell you what you see. Eyes are the only total individual sense a human has. They are the intrinsic sum total of all the senses of each individual. The eyes do their work in response to color or lack of color, or a combination of both. This brings forth size, shape, form, and substance to all things in the material, but only when operating in the material bounds of color or lack of color, i.e., within the spectrum of ultraviolet emissions from the sun. Science considers anything else to be a hallucination. Yet science works to this double standard. Only they develop sensors that tell where the atom was and then read out this information usually in black and white. Again, the eye, not the sensors, brought the reality. Kirlian photography has finally allowed us to see feelings. The action of feeling is spectacular, but does through the use of color reproduction. Where does this leave the colorblind person? Oddly enough, no one is colorblind. Only color different. The majority see the spectrum one way, the minority see the spectrum another way. Rather than argue, the minority is called colorblind. So the ones thought not to see color do see color, only their kind of color. Since their color sense is different, their perception will also be different. A group of people are present. Only one sees the ghost. 2 buddies see a flying saucer. Each describes it differently. 3 people are buzzed by a UFO. Only one sees it. Radar does not register the UFO, but the operators saw the UFO. One person swears the man had black hair. The other person swears they had red hair. In the above, which person is right or wrong? None are, unless they let themselves be convinced they were wrong. This is usually done by consensus, the minority wrong, of course. To equate this situation, do not argue, merely compare and conform to what is around you, letting yourself see exactly what you see without telling yourself that you never saw it. In short, quit fooling yourself, even though you're forced to fool others. Seek out those that see as you see, within limits, and enjoy your good fortune. You are 10 steps above the majority, not 10 steps below. Now we come to the third eye principle. You have an animal eye, which has been just described lately. You have an immaterial B-mind eye and a very immaterial C-mind eye. Mind is immaterial, yet it does see in this dimension through the eye senses and the feeling senses. What color does it see? Any color it wishes to see in order to give greater comparison, to get greater detail in the material. There is a difference. The minds see in color not of the sun spectrum, but only in comparison thereto, so as to maintain animal reality and application. Immaterial mind spectrum must be the opposite of the material sun spectrum. With dream colors should be used as one key. Mind dream colors should be used as one key. Spiritual paintings often come close to mind colors. Some of the great masters in art all have a certain something different, yet it cannot be described or taught, merely recognized unknowingly as of now. The paintings all have one thing in common, or one item in common. The artists use sun spectrum colors in highly involved ways in order to get close to the color the artist saw with the third eye. Go over this. Accept your own color reality. You'll need it when you get further along in this work. No color will be used, only names of colors, so you can see your own energy rings as they are to you. What they are to anyone else won't help at all. You may still call a black eye black when it's really blue, yellow, and red, but please know what you're doing. The objective is to stay unconfused in the middle of confusion. Color is one actuator of energy, or deactuator. Energy is a pool that remains dormant until triggered into action. Most triggers are unknown or thought to be a result of act or react stimuli. To accept act-react as the total concept cancels out creation. Thus, creation is a singular happening that is acted or reacted upon, setting the chain of motion in the material. Color in any dimension is the result of energy release. Color then releases energy pools of like kind, which brings forth action, whether known or not known, outside the energy pool. The result of this release in a human is a feeling, whether acted upon or not. This feeling can vary widely depending upon how and which mind tints or alters the color in reception. Resulting actions, if any, will vary accordingly. In order to get a clear perception within color stimuli, using the basis presented, black and white must be accepted a color so as to arrive at a proper perspective as to each person's feeling within color witness. One must bring honestly to conscious thought their own feeling to each part of the color spectrum. Accept the colors you actually feel as your own feelings, rejecting what you have been told you should feel. The colors you are seeing are already mind-tinted by your minds. Do not try to analyze or contradict the colors you see or the feelings they produce. Your good colors can flip you from a depression into a pleasure dwell within minutes. Blue shaded spectrum turns you on, turns your mate off. Divorce court. California, no fault. Energy sources. All energy sources within the material are the result of temperature flow upon the body of the living organism. From absolute zero, from beyond space, to the ultimate by man, brackets known, brought forth by the hydronuclear heart of atom fission. Within this range is all living witness. Each living witness can stand, considering the vast degree range, only a very small degree range in temperature flow, and survive, unless controlled by outside devices and very carefully supervised in time-limited circumstances, because of the wide range of temperature life of various components within one living unit. The human body has a normal range of merely 20 degrees Fahrenheit, from 90 to 110 degrees, and sometimes much less. This is the unit temperature, not individual components within the unit. To maintain the range, some components go to zero and some go to absolute maximum. Don't scream. The heart of an atom is total cold. We are made up of atoms. The release of an atom is total heat, so a constant flux is maintained and we are in good health. Color is a result of energy released and the kind of energy. Color is a key to our own energy component, flux. The color we see outwardly is the same color we see inwardly. Concentrate on a good feeling color and, like a damper on a stove, we open the good feel energy signal. Look at a bad color and we feel bad and look bad. People look healthy or look sick, all according to their color of skin, regardless if they are dark or light-skinned people. There exists color contrast at all times, even in dreams. The source of all energy is temperature flow. To keep within context, the human body is a heat machine with a 20-degree range. As atoms move closer together in compatibility, they grow warmer. As they move apart, they grow colder. Each atom has a circumference, or ring, as to its reach or influence. As the atom heats, the ring expands, and as it cools, the ring contracts. Energy grows as atom rings expand, bringing the rings of like atoms closer, and in turn heating them up. Like chain lightning, the compatible rings link and expand. Energy blazes. Maintained too long, they blow a fuse, then collapse while the fuse regenerates itself the same way the energy built itself, by reheating and expanding, ready for reuse when needed again. One marvelous mechanical unit of endurance, actuated by all components of the feel field. Many outside energy sources exist. We have color, heat, sight, smell, taste, touch, compatible energy, motion, and creation vibrations as basic elements. Each has infinite variations, both positive and negative reactions embodied in each response in the material, which in turn starts an act of the physical body. These acts, known or unknown, happen a mere base million times a day. Negative fluxes cause aging, positive prolong youth and health. In this time period, there's great admonition to, quote, reach out and touch someone, end quote. By now you should realize this is like advising a person to blindfold themselves when they seek out long stem roses in the garden. They will touch 1,000 thorns before they find the first rose, but you should give up after the first bloody 20 thorn punctures. By using all senses knowingly in the search, a touch becomes a returned caress, at least initially. Usually the person's touch The person touched will throw up their facade to unthinkingly protect themselves and blow off the relationship on takeoff.
You should now pause and find your own predominant energy activators. Ask yourself when you feel best and when you feel lousy. Be honest, no one should know this but you. Is it color, heat, cold, taste, smell, creative vibrations? Run through a list, combining even searching out pleasure feelings caused by something that has not been written in these comps. Acceptance of what is happening in the present with high expectancy to the future is a good positive approach to a healthy and long life. Living actively in this concept can wreck your health when you let any one mind take complete charge of your actions. Each mind must have its fair share of actions produced by its own releases of its own energy. Minds stealing energy from each other blows fuses too fast for the fuses to reconstruct. Sooner or later, boom, sudden sickness or death. Base of animal energy is food. One of the highest quick energy elements of all food is a part called sugar. Without going into chemistry and language, as we cross all fields of living structures in which the element sugar is defined as being acid or non-acid, according to receptive, react, and chemical flux, the high energy actuator of all life forms will simply be called sugar and let go at that level. Since most humans know what the word sugar means, and other life forms could care less. Honey is one of the highest in sugar energy in nature. All honey does not come from bees. Many life forms extract and refine sugar, quote, and store it in their own way. Most of these stored forms is acceptable to the human digestive tract. In modern society, this is no longer needed. We refine, quote, sugar from many sources and package it in energy bombs. In a search recently, it took over 3 weeks to find a staple other than meat that did not contain, quote, sugar, even though the unlanguaged chemical name on the staple used as high as 38 letters of the alphabet to write, quote, sugar. Some meat was also so camouflaged. Sugar produces high energy. Society demands high production. Colleges demand high proficiency as well as normal schools. Businesses demand go, go, go. All demand quick driving energy. Sugar gives that energy. So everything is loaded with sugar. Food, drink, alcohol, and all elements vital to the survival field. The end is a great producing society, but with medical bills skyrocketing beyond comprehension. All one need do is arrive at their own conclusion. Does the end justify the means? Is there a blame? Is there a great conspiracy? Absolutely not. Sugar is a wonderful part of life, but sugar intake must be held within the pace of an individual's activities. Great activity, great sugar intake. No activity, very little sugar intake. At the moment, almost impossible. Too much sugar intake to body activity causes energy to actually spin its wheels. The body becomes a humming dynamo with no drain off. Sleeplessness, anxiety, fatigue, tension, to mention a few symptoms, quickly develop. After a few weeks or a few months, retired or elderly persons react in far less time. The heart acts funny, quote, once in a while. The bowels become cramped. The stool is like marbles. Shortness of breath happens. Extreme fatigue comes and goes in 15-minute cycles. Body temperature drops to 96, then rises to 100. All in the 15-minute cycle. An overall feeling of having your strength running out of a hole without control takes over. Heart tests, blood tests, and urine tests show normal health. Drugs are prescribed. Good. The patient can't eat much while sleeping. Only the patient is afraid to go to sleep. The patient thinks it might not wake up. Should the patient be sent home, the drugs usually go down the toilet, not the scared, silly patient. Because the patient sometimes does not wake up, died unexpectedly in their sleep. Natural causes, of course. The above is a very, very short description of sugar shock. It can happen to anyone at any age. The medical profession never heard sugar shock syndrome mentioned before. The tests measure what has not been used up or if too much has been used up. In sugar shock, the blood and urine remain normal. The body has accepted the energy. Now it cannot do anything with it. Until they wise up, do your own test. Buy diabetic foods free of sugar. Add a pinch of sugar now and then. Try it for just 3 days. Take a mild over-the-counter laxative. You should need it to normalize your stool, but check to make sure it has no sugar in it. Once back under control, slowly find your sugar intake to your activity level. You'll find it is not too much. With sugar shock, you'll sweat. As you drop sugar, you will sweat less. After you have adjusted your sugar intake, overload and watch the water pour from your skin as you burn up. It will pass in 24 hours and you'll know it as a double check. Sugar is a very fast energy actuator. It is energy. Now we have protein and protein shock. Odd, too much good is bad. Protein is primarily a muscle builder. What is easily forgotten is that protein is also a brainwave carrier. Low protein assimilation in the puberty years affects a teenager in a very peculiar way. Lack of amino acid, essential components of the protein molecule, brings about lack of certain functions of the brain. The person can look and act perfectly normal, but can recall nothing that had happened over few or many hours of supposed learning. Nothing but immediate response without carryover takes place. These persons are treated as though they have willfully forgotten. One observable sign is vacant-eyed, staring at nothing. They really haven't a thought connected in their head. Placed on a brainwave scan, this can be spotted when looked for by the reader of the graph. The treatment is simple and many times astounding. Amino acid pills are given orally. The result is immediate in most cases. Recall jumps from 0 to above normal within a day. This one example is not given as medical advice. In any situation mentioned in this work pertaining to medical treatment, it is an example only. To verify or treat, see a doctor. They may seem uneducated, but really aren't. 8 years of college plus, then a few years of supervised practice can't be achieved by a stupid person. Most doctors, after a few years of public practice, become illness bored. The new ones, just out on their own, tend to treat a cut finger as an immediate future arm amputation. This usually scares hell out of a patient. Protein is energy. Like sugar, it formerly was spread nicely through foods. Like sugar, this is no longer true. Sugar is a calorie. Soybean is protein. Like sugar, soybean products are protein bombs. Vegetable ones, but still protein. Sugar soybean bombs equal human energy bombs. What is ignored is the simple fact that a bomb explosion is over in seconds. The human bomb lasts a little while. It is almost impossible to find a soybean-free product on any food shelf. Gourmet foods aren't exempt. Make a beautiful fresh vegetable salad. Now, what about the dressing? Unless you make your own from vinegar, spices, and/or milk, you will have refined sugar and soy in any dressing, usually loaded with what you're trying to do without. Health food stores are soybean peddlers. Tired of junk foods loaded with sugar and soybeans? Go to a health food store and get natural sugar and soybean foods, all vegetable. Sugar does not come from meat sources. Sugar is sugar. It is not mined from the earth like salt. Sugar is refined or not refined. It is the quantity, not the quality, that leads to sugar shock and protein shock. Soybeans are thought to be the manna from heaven with Moses in the Sinai. Moses lived for 40 years in the desert prior to the flight. The tough soybean thrives anywhere in the world and is hated in the wild state. It has a gallbitter taste raw. Ruins milk for most animals. Moses could have known how to leach the bitterness from the bean. Moses would have not let the people gorge themselves on it, especially the tofu, which is a bread made easily from the ground bean. Taste the meat from an acorn. It is bitter, yet Pacific Coast Indians make a tasty bread from it, a staple in their diet. Refine soybeans and you have all the energy products without the waste, just like sugar. Soy products, unlike refined sugar, have been introduced to the mass of people on a very rapid scale, much too rapid for the human system to completely adapt digestively. The result is digestive gut gas, in brackets, flatulence to be nice, end brackets, and gnawing discomfort. The heat machine is screaming along on a full steam boiler with no escape valve. Basic foods are still sold in mass markets. A basic food is one with the roughage not removed. Ration yourself on the quick energy foods to meet your physical requirements. All foods have their place in a high-geared society. The air we breathe is energy. It has many elements in it, not just one big one. There exist life structures that feed on air only. Gulping great amounts of air does strange things to one's body. Not breathing does the exact opposite, weird things. Air is not just a catalyst, as many people think. It is an energy element in its own right. The great smog fears today existed hundreds of years ago, yet the human went right on multiplying. Air, as any other product, always has waste in it. The human system is built to get rid of the waste when the rest of the heat machine is working normally. Water is the last energy in the base group. Water carries so many minerals and other life forms in it that it is useless to itemize. 70% of our weight is water. What we do with that water determines if we are, quote, fat or, quote, thin, which at best is only comparable in one's own immediate environment. Without water energy, we die rapidly. With too much, we drown in our own fluid. Water energy is activated solely by heat. The nearer to the norm one stays in body temperature, the better the energy from water. Water need not be ingested to produce energy or use energy. It can be induced simply or by dousing the skin. A hot shower is a sleepy one. A cold shower is an awakening one. A person can be, quote, fed by immersing in a nutrient solution, mostly water. Water is the, quote, carrier of all things while in the womb, including blood. Water is the energy and can carry many other types of energy when necessary. You have covered the base animal sources of energy, yet one remains, animal but not animal. This form of energy is most puzzling and not understood at all. It really doesn't have a proper name. It is the stuff of miracles and fancy, mystic names. It is basically kinetic in form and substance, yet it defies so-called laws of science, so is not accepted by the science that named it. When material and immaterial, quote, work together, it is very hard to remain rational. Shall we try? The word, quote, kinetic will be used for this energy. Creation, maybe. The magnetic properties of the body are totally ignored, yet the body is one total dynamo. Chemical prothesis causes atom movement, and the heat machine is running on magnetic flux. Galvanic action, both under known control and automated control, in brackets subconscious, starts instantly and continues until death of the body. This action is continuous in the intestinal tract, while muscular is act-react demanded. Sources of electrical energy in the body is the intestinal tract. The intestinal tract has all the, quote, feed-out capabilities to every part of the body. No other major organ has this. All other organs are, quote, feed-ins to it, plus a primary and, quote, feed-out to supplement the intestinal, quote, feed-in. This magnetic field is loaded with kinetic properties in any animal. In the human, we have the minds to contend with, which also have kinetic fields developed due to proximity to the animal fields. Material to the immaterial brought forth new kinetic fields. Thus we have a transcendental complex. Bear in mind that all kinetic actions travel on the outside of the conveyor. Nerves, arteries, veins all have, quote, sheath covering, making them conduit conveyors, while kinetic actions travel on the, quote, sheath when they travel at all to anywhere. Sending kinetic energy to anywhere is done by sending it along the conduit, not through it. Each atom in itself does not produce a field. Compatible atoms are quiescent to one another until energized, either by direct energy feed-in or by proximity to different atom structures. Once the atom field is energized, a kinetic field springs forth, i.e. the atom field sends out its own feel field. Further action depends on its field. Once atom action stops, the kinetic field fades unless maintained by mind energy. Mind energy can ring itself around material kinetic energy and store it for future use. Thus, immaterial mind can use material in the material under its own direction, much the same as gases are stored in containers for future use, mostly under great pressure. Whenever atoms are disturbed, they throw off an aura. This aura is magnetic, electrical, and
and has anti-gravitational properties, but only in a circular form, never in a plane. This aura is called by many names, such as static, electronic field, spiritual manifestation, and St. Elmo's fire. Static electricity is the only one commonly accepted as having power in the physical. Run a comb through your hair, quickly hold the comb very close to a piece of paper. The paper will move to the comb, paste itself to it. Neither comb or paper being made of metal, this aura cannot be magnetic. A charged magnet will not attract paper. This one aura Rex mighty machine should no, quote, drain off be included in the construction. This static aura will blow a gasoline truck sky high when not bled off. Can and does at various times. This static aura sets fire to materials. This is but one of the kinetic fields in your body. There are thousands at work as you read this. This static aura is gathered in the entire body, channeled to the eye nerve control, neuron in brackets cell in brackets path, focused by the eye focal cell nerves in brackets neurons, and the object focused upon moves, sometimes violently, such as poltergeist activities, or a spoon is bent, or a marble hops into a cup, a watch starts running. Wristwatches are commonly stopped by static buildup or magnetic buildup, and many other so-called unnatural activities. Improper use of kinetic energy, or the unknown use of certain types, can cause the body to undergo some very strange changes. The most drastic occurrence is the, quote, blue flame death. After you've studied this comp, should you wish to try, quote, strange powers under control, do so very, very cautiously. Should you not have mastered your own feel field, do not even try. Feel is all you'll have to use as control. No other field can be used in its stead. Magnetic fields are common, composed of electronic kinetic byproduct atoms. Proximity brings function under mechanical control. Kinetic energy is the product of atom action. Therefore, bathe the atom field in stored, pressurized kinetic energy of like kind, and the atom field reacts, sometimes a startling, many times squared instant energy. Store and pressurize affection energy, release to affection atoms, low, instant complete healing by mind direction through the corporate body. Danger. Suddenly racing atoms can cause extreme heat or extreme cold. Body human swings only 20 degrees in heat function. Until a complete pleasure dwell can be maintained, where time stands still, such energy release can only be endured for split seconds. Kinetic energy is the bridge between the material and the immaterial, the halfway step between the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown. There are three base energy sources in the human body, each with a base function. Material energy function. Immaterial energy, intelligence function. Used together, they produce knowledge. Kinetic energy, ultra-dimensional function. This produces the so-called miracle effects, or transcendental functions. Carried to the ultimate, this is first instant energy change by mind alone. To think an object and have it be there. The, quote, ghost witness is an example of this, only minor and not intentional. All, quote, ghost occurrences have a short episode repeat situation, i.e. the item walks the stairs, emits voice, sounds off key, goes a certain distance and fades. All instances place these happenings under certain environment conditions, ideal for kinetic manifestation. The ghost is brought about because, the quote, ghost is brought about because the fading human energies let the mind energies run wild, dwelling on a happening in that person's life or its present condition. The kinetic fields became highly charged. At the instance of great body distress, the greatly amplified kinetic field literally explodes, bearing the molecular vibrations in surrounding objects without any sound at the time. It is too sudden. The vibrations are dampened upon impact, and when the same atmospherics repeat, we have waverly sight and sound manifestations based on the memory track of the kinetic explosion. Remove the objects invested, be it a house or a forest, and the, quote, ghost is gone. In successful exorcism rites, water or magnetic materials,
sometimes emanating from the exorcist, releases the bound kinetic molecules. In no instance is this, quote, ghost part of a soul or spirit that is, quote, left behind. It is only kinetic charged material with a memory in its vibe pattern, much like a tape on a tape recorder. There are 3 detectable, quote, waves in the human body. These waves are electromagnetic and are now able to be scientifically monitored by electronic testing machines. They are by name delta, alpha, and beta. These are the act-react waves capable of producing action in the material body. These waves at the moment are thought to be effects to or from the emotions. Delta waves are slow and easy, tranquil, said to be animal in nature. Alpha waves are dreamy, blissful. Beta waves are harsh, driving, and exciting, the waves to be stopped and heart attack victims. All medical and as of yet, quote, unmedical drugs are based and prescribed as to their effects on these 3 waves. Give a drug to shut off alpha, in brackets B mind, and beta, in brackets C mind, animal-like nature and behavior results. Also, faster healing takes place when there are no side effects from the drugs or drug. Side effects always take place. First, side effects is caused by the drug or drugs not being pure, carrying a bit of alpha or beta or maybe both. But the major side effect is that this drug or drugs also disrupt the kinetic fields and the actions there too. Regardless of which wave is subdued, the impurities and the drug or drugs will disrupt the kinetic fields. The drug or drugs that do this, the least is considered the, quote, best, but by observation of reactions, not by checking kinetic flow. Science, as of yet, does not accept kinetics in the human body. Only spiritualists do, since kinetics are seen as, quote, spirits to them. A kinetic sick body will eventually produce a materially sick body, sort of looking into the, quote, future via kinetic forerunners. Only the delta wave can affect material in the material, both physically and kinetically. The minds can only ride the material carriers and thereby direct them when the delta wave allows this to happen. When the delta wave throws the riders off, either alpha or beta or both, the human body relaxes into animal dwell. The kinetic field becomes dormant. Alpha B mind or beta C mind then can use up a part of their stored kinetic product captured from delta and bomb delta back into action. Kinetics are the mind's energy actuators in the physical, thereby having cause and effect in the material. The atom forms a circle of influence, thereby having act-react effects in the material. However, please, slowly now, the perimeter or circular band of that atom is not reacting, but flowing. Since opposites are the basis of our material dimension with a third element for balance, then some humans would use the perimeter of the atom as energy, and others would use the wave of energy from the atom nuclei to expand/contract the perimeter flow energy. The nuclei atom wave would be act-react, in brackets, expand/contract, and cause male behavior in action, while the expanding contracting perimeter or circle of the nuclei wave would be the female action and behavior in action. The male of the species act-reacts, the female flows. The female actuates the nuclei actuates the female. Nuclei male, perimeter female. Total act-react dimension maintained in a body, in brackets, third element, that is material. An atom is, quote, made up of many minor functions from the nuclei, brackets, which hasn't been found yet, to the outer perimeter. But to date, all atom experiments are, quote, impulsed from the outside of female flow, disrupting the male nuclei. The actions from the nuclei outward are known to some extent, but knowing anything about how or why the nuclei itself is impulsed from other than the outside has not been thought of as of now. Should the universe be expanding outward, the, quote, flow ring would contain it. Should it be expanding inward, the, quote, flow ring would still contain it. The atom is the base of material dimension reality, the starting point of material substance. The, quote, ring of the atom nuclei is the contact in the, quote, chain of atoms that form anything material. The quote ring of the nuclei is then the control of the outward manifestations of the inner act-react of the nuclei. Thus, quote, flow energies are in charge of act-react energies. The outer limits of our universe are in, quote, flow, energized from within. Flow has to contact flow to go beyond our universe. Nuclei alone cannot do this, neither can perimeter without nuclei. However, quote, flow can contact, receive, quote, energy from beyond our universe, quote, heat the nuclei into greater act-react and thus expand the perimeter forever. To expand in this manner takes complete balance between the two factors of the atom and all the factors of the body housing them. Some minor clarifications of the atom structure is necessary since the word, quote, ring is used instead of, quote, sphere. This written work is two-dimensional, i.e. flat or on a plane. Three-dimensional goes into, quote, roundness or spherical, quote, spherical optic presentation, producing depth perception. Two-dimensional atom or flat concept is a ring with a nuclei dead center. In action, atom radiates energy outward in all directions from its, quote, shell or spherical binding, the quote, shell being in, quote, flow, expanding, contracting according to act-react of the core or nuclei. To check this out, go through the 20 or more of quantum mechanics textbook presentations, mostly on theory. To check out kinetic mysteries, dig into particle physics theory. Adjust your thinking to this, quote, flat presentation, as all the schematics later on are in, quote, flat dimension, with the kinetic atom given special care because it is multidimensional without its core or nuclei, therefore not a sphere. One need not know the structure of atoms to understand how they act on life, with the exception of the difference in the function of the common core atom and the profuse kinetic atom. The core atom produces the kinetic atom. Core atoms form a field that is channeled through a round trunk formed by human body material, usually calcium, that produces a, quote, nerve carrier. As core atom energy field goes through this channel, a quote unquote ring of kinetic energy forms, riding the calcium or nerve coating. Energy, quote, leaks or radiates outward from this, quote, ring, never inward. Kinetic energy radiating outward has no core and the energy is burr-like, but can hook, bend, or remain straight like spikes. When focus channeled from channel to channel, built massively until its release or use on a material object of conductivity, can lift, tear, drive, or manipulate solid objects, then disappear completely. When produced by many fields of different weight core energy atoms, the kinetic atom does rearrange core atoms. Do not misunderstand. Kinetic atoms exist around all energy core atom field complexes, including our universe, not just a, quote, life form body. However, the kinetic atom can interact with all core energy atoms. Core energy atoms cannot mix with all other core energy atoms. Mix a few different core energy atoms and you get a hydrogen bomb or worse. To get a visual, quote, visual of the, quote, ring of a kinetic atom, take a penny balloon, pull its open end over a broom handle until stretched tight, then roll from the open end on the broom handle back to the end of the broom handle. That is how the kinetic atom forms, but only on, quote, trunk carrier core energy atom fields such as nerves, arteries, veins, and skeletal structures of, quote, life forms. Any body or field of core energy atoms forms an aura surrounding produced, quote, solid of that object. The aura is composed of the, quote, spikes of the kinetic atom. Kinetic atoms are the link between the material and immaterial dimension. They are the mind's tools in this universe. Your minds use kinetic energy to use, direct, correct, or abuse your animal body at all times. The minds can bomb you awake or to sleep, yet remain alert themselves. When you take control of your minds, you take control of kinetic energy. Your minds know already how to use it. When your A mind takes total control of your animal body, B mind and C mind can do nothing without the consent and direction of the A mind. The A mind, that sniveling, belly aching, bum batch of mixed, torn up feelings everyone, including yourself, tells you to get rid of. Why not? Then the mind can do as damn well pleases, and does as of right now. One mind in charge of two other minds brings chaos,
whereas A mind, being the component of all minds, can balance them in use. The question always arises, can anyone get me to do something I do not want to do? You should know that answer. Their mind can caress, coax, stress your kinetic field, or even wallop it when necessary. You let yourself wide open by giving permission in most instances, even turning off your own minds to do so, or unknowingly listening to their music or sitting in their color schemes. Music carries high kinetic energizers at all times. These energizers can become instant actuators when nudged slightly by another's mind. There is a distinct music for each of the wavelengths. Delta has a slow paced and gradually quickening, quote, drum beat to simulate a heartbeat, often building up to high energy body release, sometimes seeming frenzy if gone unchecked. After the, quote, music is over, the body relaxes completely with no stress carryover. Alpha wave music is usually found among the classics. It is a type of song and instrumentation that blends the natural delta with the exciting beta wave. Alpha in its own right is usually caught only in areas where instrumentation has faded out or only a seeming echo remains. It is a dreamlike, ethereal sound, but not haunting. A feeling of almost complete renewal is its aftermath. Alpha instrumentation has not been brought forth because musical instruments that are mathematical and mechanical are a product of beta excitement complex mind. Delta instruments made from natural products, wood, leather, reeds, hollow-stemmed woodlings, sometimes wind-driven by the lungs, is strictly animal man. So alpha must let human voice and vibrations reach out to kinetically reach others. Alpha, when using instrumentation, blends delta and beta skillfully with voice and kinetics to reach pitch. Good alpha can blend all minds skillfully in reaching ever higher actuating triggers in the human. Pure beta is high excitement, sometimes confused with delta frenzy, but very high and beyond that level of energy release. Excitement is achieved by the C mind using kinetics to chop up the smooth, slow-flowing delta wave. Sparks fly as the delta wave is cut up like hamburger coming out of a hamburger machine. High, quick energy release. Also, high, quick collapse. Wonderful for a short period of time. A kinetic burst from another person's mind can snap you out of almost any dwell state, unless you have energized your own kinetic body field and shut off your suggestive curiosity field complex. This is the, quote, search or, quote, I am looking for something feeling. Once you've succeeded in shutting down this field, you have what is referred to as a, quote, shield by practitioners of any branch of metaphysics. You have to consciously lower this shield in order to even sometimes hear what others are saying close to you. You will be accused of being absent-minded, like the absent-minded professors. It is quite the contrary. You are being total-minded with your own degree of thought and action, not theirs. A pleasure dwell is the expanding of this control into many thoughts, actions, and fields at any given single time. Any kind of non-action to replenish your body or mind energies causes this field to weaken, defining mind weakening as the mind's kinetic energy no longer being able to contact the fast-fading body kinetic wave. This is why Christ in the last seconds on the cross cried, quote, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? His weakened, almost non-existent body kinetic shield was suddenly penetrated by complex mind's stored kinetic body energy with searing pain memory. Christ had lost his shield after days of torture, lack of food and water, and finally slow, cold, brutal murder. To be fair, he did get C mind to waste his energy and thereby assure B mind's vast reserve to suddenly blast him back to life. How does one get rid of pleasure-wrecking, sometimes, quote, self-thoughts, or in others, quote, evil thoughts penetrating theirs? A drunken wino stumbles through your door, stinking to high heaven, slobbering over the room, mouthing curses and generally making a pest of theirself. Even being a stranger to you, think, what are you going to do? You're going to get rid of the uninvited guest, one way or another. You do this by concentrating on what to do in the immediate moment, decide what to do, and then do it. You do the exact same process with a thought that caused you to feel bad. Forget where it came from or where it is going. Concentrate on it. Kick it out and replace it with a good feeling thought. Otherwise, you end up entertaining the drunken wino. Concentration. Lost art. Too easily distracted. Too much going on. Due, of course, to actions caused by those that can concentrate. To learn to concentrate is easy, assuming you're in fair health with working faculties and you desire to do so. Take a sheet of paper, any color, and draw 5 target circles on it using any color crayon or different color crayons. The 6th or smallest circle being the core of the, quote, target. You may use different color crayons to, quote, solid the heart of this last circle or bullseye. Place this on a wall, sit down far enough away to see it clearly and portions of the wall. Look at the outer circle and to the other circle's fuzz. Then move in one circle, repeating until you have reached the bullseye. Now, concentrate on that bullseye until it starts expanding. Try to find shades of color in the solid as it expands. Keep concentrating until you do. This will take repeated efforts for some. It's advisable to set an alarm clock or timer for 15 minutes when you first try. When you get down to less than 30 seconds, not setting the alarm, of course, you can safely feel you concentrate rapidly enough for most common situations in present life happenings. You can avoid many common pitfalls. The bullseye now is someone's evil thoughts, or your own, or a car rushing at you 10 foot a second. Within months, starting at 0, your concentration can be whipped like an instant follow-up action, a split second later. This split-second action is needed to, quote, throw kinetic energy to target before the body, beyond the body, before the kinetic energy fades, unless you master the, quote, flow principle used in hypnosis, or the, quote, bomb kind used by minds. Hypnosis falls under the suggestive curiosity field complex. Concentration is the key. Kinetic control on the flow principle is the answer. Kinetic energy can kick, grab, or caress. Hypnosis uses flow kinetics in the human mind-induced. In the animal, hypnosis is still flow, but motion-actuated. When both mind and motion actuators are used on a human, deep hypnosis is induced. A person under direct hypnotic control has an overwhelming desire to please the hypnotist. They know they are being subject to command and love it. The hypnotist becomes a total authority to be obeyed regardless of cost. In hypnosis, the one under is not following their own feelings, directions, and commands, but the orders given by the hypnotist and the feelings, direction, and command of the hypnotist. You're subjected to suggestive hypnosis from the second of conception and until you die, unless you, quote, shut off the flow from others or raise a complete 24-hour-a-day shield. It's easier to set up a checkmaster on any suggestive influences coming your way, so that you can instantly recognize outside inducement as such, then shut it off or ignore it completely. Sorry, let's just say ignore it politely. You can rapidly build your checkmaster by listening to the radio or television promotional ads, or reading any written material, including this work. That is why this writing neither tells you to do anything or even suggests that you try. That makes the writing of this difficult and sentence structure sometimes archaic. There is under no circumstance anything in this work that attempts to take advantage of suggestive hypnotism. Although at times it does slip in because all language on this planet embodies suggestive hypnotism in its structure. As you are listening, looking, and or reading, try to pick out everything that suggests that you do something in another person's favor, many times making it appear as though you're doing yourself a favor. Stay with it a week or so and become appalled, with your C-mind screaming up denials and excuses. You can refuse a hypnotist's direct hypnotic control, and the hypnotist is powerless unless you stay around to argue about it. The hypnotist will go into suggestive flow and get you to agree, sometimes a week or so in the future, if not right then. Hypnotism can use all the kinetic energies of your body and minds when you have surrendered that control freely or under the force of a mind bomb. Another person's mind bomb will only affect you for seconds or moments until your mind can analyze, accept, or reject the order given by your boss, mate, or military commander, or knowing metaphysics. This can get you killed very quickly under certain conditions. Most hypnotists use only a fraction of the hypnotized person's kinetic energy. Activating the sleep field is the easiest. The motor nerve controls and finally the eye matrix controls are harder to do, while the smell taste is then fairly simple. When under, this person becomes a very nice robot, but suggestive orders when given under hypnosis can erupt weeks or even months after the person is brought out. The appalling fact is the person hypnotized is not acting under their will, but under the hypnotist's will. How far can hypnotism reach and control? Only up to the entity expansion. Any hypnotist that has taken a person that far out receives a startling shock. The person goes out from under the hypnotist's control instantly, leaving a very shook hypnotist. Let us look. Regression hypnosis is very faulty at the best. At the worst, it is absolutely laughable. What part of the field is being relived? If it is sight and sound, a man will, quote, report that he was, quote, a woman, and if woman, that she was a quote, man. Why? The field is probing outward and reporting on observations only. The person they, quote, see becomes them in the report, usually the, quote, one that made the strongest impression on them. Most humans do not completely know how they look from the front, and when they go into regressive memory under hypnosis, how can they remember something they didn't know in the first place? Hypnotism is real. It does work. It is valuable. It is better to know what you're doing before you do it. Suggestive hypnotism is the dollars of advertising/marketing firms. They get very good at it. They're trying to get the okay to do direct hypnosis on the TV screen, but so far FCC has turned them down. B-mind and C-mind have kinetic fields not of this world, but their kinetics, quote, feed through ours when we let it happen. A-mind now has its kinetic field of this world. At all times, there is a powerful interact going on, unlimited expansion from beyond versus a very strong A-mind shield on Earth, and limited by actual material, but balancing out rapidly. Out-of-body experiences are the result of the body kinetic form leaving the body while the body is in a, quote, calm situation, i.e. suspended in time. Perhaps the word, quote, calm should be looked at closely. Calm today is used only in a very limited way, i.e., quote, they are calm and peaceful. They are calm but ready to explode. Calm is a state of being. How it is achieved has as many answers as it has questions. A person shot or badly broken in a fall can be calm for a period of time. So calm is a state of emotion that for a time is motionless. Out of control, out-of-body experiences are usually frightening afterwards or in retrospect. Strictly controlled out-of-body experiences always have a, quote, cord between body and, quote, exoplasm. A natural out-of-body trip is free and majestic, with a kinetic body feeding into the physical body all the information gained so it can clearly be remembered afterward without panic or doubt. To reach any use of kinetic energy beyond automatic or auto-induced activation calls for concentration to reach a single subject. Everything else is, quote, out of contention, blank to everything else that exists. All minds must be as clear as space without stars. To give a fairly clear example of diverse concentration, any written work of fair length will have mistakes. A person studying the work for the knowledge in the work will not notice the mistakes in printing and spelling, nor anything else unless it breaks the flow of knowledge. Another person will catch every mistake, which proves they were not studying with undivided attention. They are critical of the tool they are using instead of the job they should be doing. Most production jobs are lost that way because of bad work. Now is the time for entity awareness. Should what you're reading from now on not make too much sense to you, do not become discouraged. You're not too secure with your own entity yet. Give it a while to break through to you on a stronger basis. There is a primary coreless atom. Its, quote, rings have tendrils shooting in as well as outwards, like the kinetic atom. The primary atom is the life energy atom, and the Chinese have the chain of these atoms in easy-to-read drawings dating from over 5,000 years ago. This chain is their key to acupuncture used on the human body. No one can detect this flow or these atoms with machines, yet the Chinese prove they are there by merely putting them to work. Since life energy exists out of this material world and must enter it, it must have a vehicle, kinetic, in brackets byproduct, energy. The two go hand in glove. Entity, which literally means all, combined of everything within its scope, acts with the human on a kinetic energy wavelength. Steady, pulsing, and calm human kinetic energy expands to meet the contracting entity life atom. The tendrils intertwine. Out of this world, intelligence flows in. But the human form must adapt this intelligence to knowledge, which is function before a body can use it. A word to describe this action has been brought forth and used, but the ones practicing this word misuse it. Science is the word. Take the unproven, put it into system, which is function, and prove it by repeat action, learnable by an average person. This has turned around. Use the proof of one subject to disapprove the unprovable of another subject. Another double standard involved in science is the ability to disapprove anything new by using old standards. Entity tends to smile at the debacle. The evolutionaries versus the creationists, both result of fear syndrome. The evolutionists are afraid the creationists might be right, then they will surely, quote, go to hell. The creationists are afraid the evolutionists might be right, then the creationists are sure put a lot of work and time in for nothing at all. Yet neither of these, quote, sciences are based on fact at all. Supposed fact, yes. Provable fact, no. This is pure science? No. Use as a proof to yourself so as to do what you want to do. Beautiful. No one needs science for this sort of indulgence. Entity ring, quote, ring, tendril go beyond this dimension, universe, but not the, quote, ring itself. The entity ring blends against the universe ring. Then the entity ring tendrils reach beyond to the infinite. After the, quote, contact, entity ring contracts back to the soul entity ring and attempts to feed the function into the soul entity ring. Read this very carefully. Once you leave the material atom field, immaterial atom structure is in flow. The soul entity atom, the life atom, and entity atom, along with the visitor atom, have a basic structure and vary only as to denseness, or how many, quote, particles comprise the ring. For easier comprehension, quote, particles will be defined as, quote, individual pods of total intelligence. These three basic atom structures each has a mind of its own. Each is kinetic energy contact system. Each can, quote, shield when they desire to do so, including the alien entities that came here and are now trapped here. The alien entity merely lost the ability to extend tendrils outward, therefore is cut off from contact outside this universe. This atom group is pictorially impossible to capture on material of any sort. Using, quote, flat or, quote, plane two-dimensional method, it looks like a transparent tube in a perfect circle with a visible, quote, visible gap breaking the circle, thus allowing the energy to flow back and forth without interruption by curving on itself at the, quote, end of each circle. Before you jump to any conclusions, this atom is a sphere with the, quote, gaps everywhere in the sphere. The picture of this, quote, atom should not be too foreign to you in the quote, flat drawing of it. The, quote, halo artist depicted it or on, quote, saints' heads with the, quote, light shining outward as well as inward. Where the, quote, gaps align, creation in that environment happens, providing that the concentrated kinetic energy is dense enough to assimilate core atoms. Please do not confuse creation with procreation. Visitor entities expand beyond the universe or contract beyond the inside of the core atom at any time. Inside means the nuclei or core of the material atom. Going smaller than the nuclei means visitor entities can bring forth material core atoms. Entity ring atoms are of two types. The entity atom can only operate within the confines of this universe. It does not have tendrils extending outward. It cannot break through the atom universe ring. This is the C mind or complex mind entity. The created B mind entity atom ring can and does expand outward as well as inward, and the tendrils, but not the ring, can go beyond this universe atom ring. The soul atom ring, sometimes referred to as the quote soul entity because it has become compatible with the B mind entity ring, has the same appearance and flow as the other immaterial atom rings, but cannot reach outward. Without the outreaching tendrils, it can only expand outward until it contacts the inward tendrils of B mind or C mind as they reach inward to contact it. You are ready for the schematics. Editor's note: now there's a picture shown of the material core atom with a core and then a flow ring around it. Back to reading the material. Procreation of living material. In the flash of pregnation, life energy atoms close the quote gaps and fuse into a perfect closed sphere. (See schematic on life atoms). Once closed, the life atom becomes the material core atom. Instant energy is generated outward. The energy meets material resistance, builds, then starts spinning, creating the quote ring flow field, which in turn creates the attraction hold field. Energy from the life atom keeps increasing, building an ever larger attraction hold field with incredible speed of the spinning flow field until compatible atoms are reached and locked onto. Then the attracted mass forms a cell of quote like life. At this point, the life atoms, now the material core or nuclei of the material core atom, starts quote pulsing energy in outward/inward react quote feeding method to maintain the new field component. The one cell of quote like life has now started and attracts other cells until in brackets easy a unit or quote pod of goal-oriented energy is pulsing, creating a greater field. Compatible cell pods attract other compatible cell pods until an object in the material is established within the limits of each material core atom energy capacity. Any multitude of varying objects form in the material due only to quote heat range. Quote heat range varies from free-floating, wildly separating atoms in cold space to compacted, heavy atoms in a sun. Resistance of one atom to another atom is the only source of this quote heat range gradient. Momentum is established by any material core atom by its energy field, seeking another compatible energy field. Thus, the quote speed of light quantum factor is established as to mass, density, and type of material object produced. The schematic below is presented to give a single vision of the atom chain. It does not represent any object in formation, but all objects that form in base multiples. It was found that simple, quote, visions worked. A child could see 3 apples placed in front of it. The, quote, teacher names one apple number 1, the second apple 2, third apple number 3. The child now has a, quote, vision of a number for the object named apple and can select which number it wants to eat. With this example, the child will be able to do multiples in the hundreds within a year and do, quote, billions in its head by maturity, and never being able to, quote, handle billions physically in a lifetime of, quote, handling. Once you have the, quote, visuals of the atom chain below, multiples, as with numbers, will follow. All the following schematics are illustrated on this same pattern approach, and each group has its own base color. Green in brackets delta wave carrier, blue in brackets alpha wave carrier, red in brackets beta wave carrier. All shades apply so as to blend or, quote, bridge unit actions, thus bring forth giving resistance, heat factors, mass and action in the physical. Soul kinetic atom. The soul life atom has only inward tendrils in the immaterial. When it closes, the field reverses and goes outward due to material resistance. The more expanded the soul, the greater reach of its tendrils, both within the material object and beyond, into the immaterial. The soul is a vast core of concentrated knowledge and is constantly eager for more. Any, quote, out-of-body experience is a ride on the soul's kinetic energy. When the kinetic energy from the memory units of the minds maintain contact, the, quote, trip is seen afterwards, and often even during the, quote, trip. A person reads a New York newspaper via close relationship in New York while the person sits in Los Angeles, sometimes even through a total stranger.
When, by concentration, you establish, quote, communication with your soul, many unusual situations can occur depending on your physical body's ability to handle them. Color this kinetic atom a solid color, your color. This is you as you would like to be and are striving to be at this moment in time. Do not be judgmental. Entity life atom, immaterial. In this universe, the immaterial life atom is spherical, except in extraordinary situations, but does flow on an endless concept. Should it mass its intelligence go into an oblong, single tube-shaped mass, it can and does travel through all universes. The tube ends merely merge into flow line, or the all that is. See Visitor Life Atom schematic. There are two distinct entity life atoms in this universe that seldom come into the material, the B-mine and the C-mine entity life atoms. Only the soul life atom freely transits. Whenever a B-mine or C-mine comes into the material in body form, world turmoil results. So it is preferred that the entity life atoms merge with soul life atoms for better control and balanced use at conception. The immaterial life entity atom below is B-mind. It is a solid blue. You pick your own shade. This atom has tendrils going to the outward as well as the inward. It can expand its tendrils beyond this universe. It can contract itself down to the enfold hard core atom. It can contract itself down to enfold the hardcore atom. It is total traverse of this universe. Its energy goes beyond the total energy of a universe when needed because of denial within choice. It can and does freeze multi-million man armies in mid-stride, then transits the settlement in time and balance to the future. Its kinetic field is awesome when needed. Its intelligence is in direct proportion to need. Entity life atom abridged. This is a C-mine life atom, immaterial. Its color is solid red. The tendrils reach only in the outward tendrils and kinetic field were stripped from it upon its violation decision, and now is the halo around the Earth described in comp number 2. It has no contact beyond this universe and exists totally on its imprisoned intelligence and energy. Being now of Earth, it is the Lord of this Earth among the earthbound. Its intelligence, which is of yet incomprehensible to the average human, is the originator of the conflict system of human advancement, which to it is right and in its own right. Without outward tendrils and kinetic field, it cannot tube itself, cannot reach flow line. It has no outward, quote, pull to its sphere. It can close down and smash hardcore atoms. It is loss-free traverse. C-mine, quote, visions are frightful due to its distortion and red hue scramble, while its geometric technological manifestations are inspiring, brilliant, and concept perfect, without emotions interfering, that is. Immaterial visitor entity, life atom. Direct link to all intelligence, light blue to beyond white. No human on Earth could tolerate this atom in the material element in full energy. Few can tolerate kinetic contact beyond a few split seconds. Its energy goes beyond that of all mass suns of all universes. Its power of decision is full and final. While in this universe, it permeates all structures with energy at zero output, unless needed. A computer, quote, from beyond all stars, is not told and does not tell what to do. It does it, based on a choice mechanism that is infallible beyond infallible. Yet it is a total part of you for all of what you call eternity, should you, quote, know it or not. Kinetic atom. The kinetic atom is useless in the material world unless it is massed. At pod size, it starts mass. As it flows along the action, it grows. Physical action or thought action, when concentrated on a single target or goal, grows rapidly. This squares impact when target or goal is contacted. Remarks such as, quote, I've just had a thought that bowled me over, are often heard, or, quote, what did you hit me with? You're not that strong, come from a suddenly floored opponent.
This kinetic atom comes in any shape, long, round, humped, or convoluting, but is always hollow inside. It will hold action as long as your concentrated will hold, then flashes into nothing unless its vibration is deeply impregnated into certain types of common materials. The vibration then stays, repeating itself under the same reoccurring conditions. Another type of its manifestation explained under entity at life atom. Color the kinetic atom below with your colors. Using crayon, it should be a combination of green, blue, and red, but need not be. This is the color of your aura at present. Auras do change as influences come to bear and the emotional field adapts. Immaterial kinetic atom. These are all entity life atom byproducts in the immaterial. This is a method of, quote, attrition without violence. Two, quote, influences from two sources are directed toward one person in the material. The most constant one simply glides in while the other vanishes. Neither, quote, sender is affected. The, quote, receiver in the physical can be greatly agitated should the color be different than their own. Usually results in the person becoming a, quote, new person. Entity life atom forms bring forth, quote, visions seen by many people at the same time in broad daylight by simply intensifying the, quote, influence pattern until it reaches, quote, resistance from material at the selected place, making the, quote, influence seen in material dimension. Color present in such manifestation is usually vague or missing altogether. When in solid color, many persons, being of different color perspective, simply would not see anything. Photographs usually show nothing because there is almost no light refraction in the ethereal vision. Color this atom to suit yourself, but color it. You may have many colors. Simply roughly draw more atoms than atoms with those color crayons until you can, quote, see them without the drawing in front of you. Immaterial life atom, in brackets, universe low energy. This is the immaterial material soul transition atom. Its energy at base flow is universal in, quote, heat energy expenditure at approximately 2 watts every 24 hours while in mass. Mass exists in the material as well as the material, except the immaterial mass is almost not comprehensible to a material mind complex, being on the opposite side of the material expression. Simply explained, immaterial atoms have, quote, fields with kinetic energy, which is in turn an object. The immaterial soul life atom has an inward energy reach, not an outward energy reach. Entity life atoms come to it. It does not reach outward to them. In the material, this is reversed. To get a good visual of this atom in the material, look closely at any of the 3-foot diameter, many-faceted and colored globes or spheres hanging in public places. The better ones are seen in disco dance places. Each facet is the opening in the ring or the closed aspect when looking from inside the globe. Quote, heat generated by the body delta wave, in the instance of the human object, flashes the immaterial life atom ring closed, starting the action of birth. The buildup of the quote, heat attracts the inward tendrils of the immaterial life atom. The affection wave, quote, heat buildup in healing processes causes unit objects to form, flashing those ever-present life atoms, rings closed, bringing renewed, fresh energy to object unit. And then editor's note. There's a picture. The quote says "you" in full structure, and there's 7 rings, and it tells you 7 is solid light blue. That's the outer one, and then 6 dark blue going inward, and then 5 solid red, 4 red, blue, or green. Quote a blend in brackets aura, and then 3 is green, the delta wave, and then 2 is blue, the alpha wave, and then 1, the very center one, is red, beta wave. Creation to material by immaterial entity life atoms. Life atoms, quote, create material by merging each into the other like atom. All degrees of life atoms have this ability. A, quote, closed life atom has lost this ability because it is already material. Immaterial life atoms exist in object material forms, so regeneration is always a possibility. Control of life atoms is control of material objects. Thus, first instance energy change under control.
B mind/C mind know how this is done. A mind does not. Color the schematic below. Get your A mind to recognize the happening. Use your colors. Reality of rituals. There are two types of rituals. One is excitement, in brackets violence, and the other is affectionate, in bracket benefits. Whenever persons mass together, the kinetic field multiplies because their concentration is on one subject with a target, be this physical action or thought alone. The effect in that concentration, either thought or action, carries material energy capabilities that can move material objects. Two clear-cut examples are religious, mostly affection in origin, can and does change, but always targets on supposed benefits, their benefits, which could be handicaps to their targetees. Armies, excitement always, built on A-mind survival, riding the animal alert signal driven beyond into pain edge by mind overdrive into reality recognition. This energy is fierce and destructive, using all subdrives in supportive survival signals. Groups always change the atmosphere. It is nice to, quote, know that atmosphere before you enter it. Atom function. All atoms expand and contract all the time. This is contact, maintained. Heat by resistance in the material is action. Kinetic energy is the link between material and immaterial action. Kinetic is full, vaporizable energy when concentrated. You will function while alive or, quote, dead. What you do with this function is named your, quote, effort in action. Concentrated effort brings concentrated results. The mechanics are simple at base structure. You scramble them as you move to detail them while in ignorance of what you're doing. They're inbuilt mechanisms to forestall, quote, unknowing violations of choice at universal expansion. Karma to bring knowledge at the material level, though perhaps not at the conscious level of your memory stimuli. Kinetic energy replaces conflict in the immaterial, thus allows stasis to dwell. Comprehension 5 is free expression without conflict in group session. Surveyed. Your, quote, born energy. Energetic excitement takes energetic affection energy. This, quote, delta wave energy is the energy that, quote, fuses the soul life atoms, quote, openings together, forming the hardcore atoms nuclei. Each cell in the body carries its accumulated affectionate energy. At pregnation, the greater the excitement or affection, the greater the, quote, heat flash that welds the ring closed. Loosely welded, weak hardcore energy atom. Tightly welded, a strong atom structure. Characteristic comments over centuries have persons classifying another person as having a weak, average, or strong, quote, constitution. A weak constitution will strengthen when surrounded by affection, as will an average constitution. A strong constitution, quote, supports weak ones. This is the way a balance and continuity is carried forward. Subconscious or life energy in the cells of the persons involved usually take care of this action, but minds can and do enhance the happening. Modern humans. Actuating energies in the human complex within a normal range. Without intelligence, there is no knowledge. Without knowledge, there is no programming. Without programming, there is no instinct. Without instinct, there is nothing. Without intelligence, there is no recognition of the beyond. No recognition of the beyond, there is no religion. Without religion, there is no programming. Without religion, there is no instinct programming. There is nothing. Intelligence is the actuator of all human complexities. Religion is only one complex. Science is another, both born of intelligence. Intelligence cannot be nothing. Animal form is function, which comes from knowledge, which comes from intelligence. Instinct is the blind side of intelligence for the human. Intelligence brought forth all that is here in recognition to human form. All functions of the human form are the result of intelligence. Why deny some functions and acknowledge other functions of the same intelligence? Unless there is more than one form of intelligence, more than one form of intelligence, then more than one form of human function, more than one form of beyond, more than one form of religion, more than one God. With one intelligence, there is no conflict in action. Two intelligences produce react actions in human function. Two or more perfect intelligences together are both imperfect. The two merge as a greater one of perfection. Human form function would then be uniform and finite, but all factors are of intelligence. Epilogue. Everyone seems to persist in being told how, in detail, to do everything. I guess it's because it's just a great point of our training in our environment, from the cradle to the grave. Quote, tell me how to do it so I can do it too. All that I can say here is that each one of us is an individual. And this is why Big Brother's plan does not work. Because we are basically, in the plan and the system we have, telling people to be a, quote, horse when they are, quote, cow, and making them accept that. Or to be, quote, an airplane pilot when they'd rather be fishing, or make them accept that. The comps do not do this to you. It gives you the mechanics, each and every one of them, including comp 4. You accept, reject, and put it to work for you, and then reject. Put it to work for you and accept it. Decide what is right for you and what is not right for you. Take it from there. The base factors are there for you to work with. I never intended, nor would I be able, to tell each individual on this planet was good for or bad for them. There is no way. Once they get the tools, and once they know what the score is in relation to them and their thoughts, their knowledge and their intelligence, then they can adapt, adjust, and get rid of confusion. Many people write in and say, well, I don't understand this. And then they go on writing and start using A-mind, quote, A-mind, and quote, B-mind, and quote, C-mind, as they're describing their friends. They're using it and they don't even know they're using it. And this is the way it works. So don't be discouraged. Don't think you haven't got anything from it. And don't think you've been shortchanged. Because what you develop from these base mechanics will be yours and yours alone. And nobody can take them away from you. Nobody, anytime, anywhere, or any place. If it were possible to do what most people think I should do, I would do it. But it is not possible. We have a wide divergence of intelligence. We have a wide divergence of habitat. We have a wide divergence of environment, of government, and of peoples. Each one of them must find themselves in their own way, under their own drive, and of their own choice. For me to try to tell any one of these people why they should or should not do would be the same as Big Brother, the same as the system that's here. I want you to bear in mind that I am postulating nothing. I'm not laying a platform for anything on this planet. I'm giving you the postulation. I'm giving you the platform. And you make of it what you will. It is your choice and your decision. I will guarantee you one thing, however, if you do not put what is in the comps into action, they will not do you any good. But they will automatically be put into action in spite of yourself, although they will take longer and that will be much slower, and you'll probably have forgotten how it all happened to you when it happens. A quick note on Comp 5. People have asked, what about Comp 5? There's no such thing. That is in conference. But you'll have developed enough by then so that most of it will be in a form of telepathy. And you'll not be asking questions, you'll be answering questions. There's a great difference between the two. Right now, as long as you're asking questions, you're not ready for a conference on Comp 4. Because all of your questions can be answered by the 4 comps and should be answered by the 4 comps. If they're not, then you better go back and start applying them. Start looking at it, start putting it into action. Then when you set with the unit, there's no hostility. There's only tranquility. The instant hostility develops, that meaning is over with. Big Brother's 10 Commandments. Now, as I've said before, Big Brother's 10 Commandments were going to be included in the works of the comps, and that they'd be in Comp 4. I've been hesitant about this because from the returns I've gotten, most people haven't stumbled onto the fact that Big Brother's 10 Commandments are the original 10 Commandments by Moses. I'm including them because maybe a lot of you haven't seen them. They're the last page in this textbook. They're the commandments that appear in all the Bibles around the world. This is the base of the system that is here. They're filled full of knots. Thou shalt not, thou shalt do this, thou shalt not do this. It's all command, it's all mandate, it's all dominion. The Bibles brag about dominion. You shall have dominion over all the fish and the fowl and the beasts. It doesn't add, and also man, but it's implied. Because to have dominion, it must be over all, not just a few. Now this is what you're up against. This is what you are to change, and balance it out with what is to be. When you go over these commandments, bear one thing in mind. Is it telling you what to do? Is it asking you what to do, or is it merely laying there and saying, well, you can do it, or you don't have to do it? And take a good hard look at it. Every business, every government, every form of work, every form of harvest, everything that is here and every law that has been written is based upon Big Brother's organizational ability in his C/complex mind to bring forth a betterment of the human race, in spite of hell or high water, in spite of them, and in spite of anything that happens. He's done a beautiful job of it, and you should give him the credit for it. But now is the time to give him his due. Give each and every intelligence their due. And there's one thing that I've always chuckled about as you turn this page and look at the 10 Commandments. It escapes everyone that practices them, lives them, or tries to live them. The very first commandment is a dead giveaway. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me. There is the admission by the, quote, supreme God that there are other gods, and he's not going to tolerate you playing around with them. And they do not tumble, even in the written works, to the very fact that that commandment would not be necessary if there were no other gods around. And then it lists the editor's note on the last page does list the 10 Commandments. This has been the Modern Human Comprehension Course by A. B. Glaser. Dun, dun, dun. Hope you enjoyed.